And I got a question for you today. What is your go-to board game? You know, like the kind you actually have to go and get off the shelf and play with people around you. Do you even still play them anymore? Or our guest today hopes that you do. And if you don't, maybe you'll be interested in the one he's got brewing. So joining with us is Micah Tyson. He's the co-founder of Tortugas Games. Did I say that right?
Tortugas.
Tortugas Games. That is so much nicer than Torturous Games, because I thought this is good thing.
Tortugas Games was a monopoly with my brother.
I'm not sure where this is going, but Tortugas Games.
Tortugas, yeah.
And you guys are still in the business of creating, you're here, based in Mississippi, but you also create tabletop games, and you say that this business is thriving, that people are coming back to, I guess you would call it analog board.
Absolutely.
People kind of games. So first, welcome. But how cool is this? This is so neat.
It's a lot of fun. I really love it.
Okay, so how did you get into this, Micah?
Well, I'm an artist and a graphic designer, but I've always played games, always grew up playing board games. I found even the other day, like an old Dungeons and Dragons, like step-by-step, tell your own story style game. Like we just always had it growing up. So I played with my brothers and sisters. I played with all my good friends in college, even still, and just kind of kept up with them through the years. And we even go to conventions. That's how big our love for board games is.
So there's this underground world that's a love for board games.
Oh, it's massive. It's massive. And I think especially during the pandemic, like people were looking for things to do, and like board game sales were enormous. It's a big, big deal, especially in places like Germany. They have some of the like the biggest board game convention in the world. But yeah, no, it's come back in a big way. I have not.
I was going to say it's really nerding out.
It is on my bucket list. It really is.
You'll probably make it there. Okay, so how do you go from having a love of board games, even if it's kind of like a niche that's really your hobby and interest, to then creating this company that decides you're going to be able to make it? Because this isn't your typical art, Micah. This is also like rules and like flow and like competitive. Like there's a whole nother layer to that, to, you know, creating a game. Although I think if anyone has had a 3-year-old in their home, that they can come out with games, like 3 or 4-year-old can come out with games out the fly, you know, and change the rules as they go. But yeah, my son and daughter actually help me a lot. They'll kind of get interested and start drawing things and say, oh, what about this idea and how do you do this? And but yeah, no, I'm one of my best friends who was my college roommate. He's my business partner, Nick Rayner. We just always played games together, played role-playing games together, and it was kind of a typical situation where, you know, we'd gotten together and we'd been playing all these games, and we started having conversations about, wow, this was really cool, but it would have been really better if they'd done this, or, oh man, this mechanic works really well, but what if they'd added this? And so we were in his kitchen one night and just kind of said, we should make a game. And he goes, what's it about? And I said, pirates. And he's like, yeah, it is. And that's literally how the company got started. And so we started making a game. So what's the next step? Like when you say, okay, pirates, I get that. But then it's like, okay. I mean, because the reason my mind, this is why I could never, because I want to make I want to make decisions decisively, but then there's so many options you could take, right? There's endless components to building any kind of game, but particularly a board game. So how do you make decisions?
We did not know. You know, it was brand new for us. We started just kind of playing off one another, free-flowing ideas, like what type of game is it going to be? Well, we like games like Mega Man where you kind of grow in power. You start really weak and then you get really strong. And we like stories that have RPG elements, role-playing game elements. And so we like narrative stories. And, you know, it's just a lot of different things from games that we loved growing up and still played. And we kind of found ways to put those things together, and that's where we got Red Tides. And it's all an ebb and flow. Like you work on mechanics, and you work on the art and the UI, and you work on the balance, and then you do more art and UI, and you know, it's just kind of been a learning experience for us from the first step. We had no idea what we were doing, but.
Well, now you have something. You've come out. So Red Tides is the name of the game.
That's right.
And it is not fully out just yet for us to be able to go and do. So you're still sort of in that development phase. But how do you describe it, like in terms of how do you play it?
So it is, and this is a little bit of a mouthful, but
that's okay.
It's a 1 to 4 player co-op pirate-themed dice battler with RPG elements. And so we have this fantastical world of New Caribbea, which is, you know, a fantasy take on the Caribbean. And It is for 2 kind of devastating decades. It's been under the rule of this pirate lord, this pirate king, John Davies. And he's taken these 4 great faction houses and unified them, and he's put limitations on the excesses of piracy. And if you know anything about pirates, you don't like that too much. You want to be free. You want to do what you want to do in the open seas. And so you kind of start as this lowly, basic, leaky dinghy sailing kind of pirate, and you're going to free New Caribbea from the pirate king, John Davies. And so you work together with your team, and you have a uniquely themed pirate house that you adopt, and you go out and plunder the high seas. You take on merchants and get plunder. You've got a shipboard where you're equipping cannons and crew for crew assaults. You can go to the port and have specialists hired into your board that augment how your game actually plays. And that's where a lot of the RPG elements come into the game.
Remind us what that means.
Yeah, so role-playing game, just more like you have a very strong narrative element that flows through the game, but everything is themed, and you can build what a lot of gamers call loadouts on your ship, and so you can customize how you want to, attack the high seas. Like if you want to be super long range heavy with your cannons and stay at distance and take out an opponent, or if you want to get in close with the nitty gritty, you can crew assault a ship, actually board them and go crew to crew and take their vessel. So there's like all these things that play on kind of real world naval scenarios, but it's fantasy. We have like creatures of the deep, which they have kind of these like otherworldly ocean-dwelling creatures like the kraken and the great whale and all these things. And so there's all these kind of fantastic elements that play into it.
Is there Captain Jack Sparrow?
There are allusions to lots of things. And it's kind of funny because I don't think that anyone will ever find them all, but I had so much fun doing the art and kind of writing the text and things.
So
but
this is all on a board game,
That's
Micah.
right, yeah.
So like in my mind, I was thinking, okay, he's starting out, it's kind of like charades, but not. But then it was like, okay, then it's kind of like Monopoly where you're going sort of through and then maybe not. And then I'm like, so if you had to, it's a smorgasbord of a lot of it, it sounds like. But like in terms of, because I know there's dice in play too.
Lots of dice.
So how's the board sort of like set up? Is it like if you had to, for just purposes of trying to wrap our head around it, is it kind of like a Monopoly but like gone rogue?
So we kind of I'm an art nerd, and so I think about things thematically. So when you set the game up, the way that we suggest setting it up is 1 to 4 player. Everybody picks their house, and you have your shipboard and your hit point counter, your hull points counter, all your dice and everything. And we envision it kind of like you're looking out across the ocean, and there's a line of merchants out there kind of doing their thing, going port to port, and these are all cards that you're flipping. And then beyond that, there's a line of captains, and these are Davies captains. They're pretty nasty. You don't really want to mess with them when you start, but you can see them out there kind of doing their thing. And then beyond them at the horizon is Davies and his big dead drifter. He's got this monstrous ship that's kind of the ultimate confrontation that you're building up through.
So there comes to like the luck of the draws thrown in there, like when you talk about like cards being flipped over.
Yeah.
So you may not. So every time you play, it's like it's going to be, well, you got to work with what you got or what you get.
That's one of the most fun parts about it is every great house is different with different advantages, different play styles. You can build your ship out how you want with the specialists and the cannons that you get, and just kind of decide tactically how you and your partners are going to take down these captains and ultimately Davies. And every time you set the game board up, there is that chance variation. So you're flipping a certain amount of merchants over. When you defeat one, you flip a new one, and they're all different classes and tiers. And so some of them are a lot tougher than the others. So there's a lot of replayability in the game, which I really like.
How thick is the booklet to teach you how to play?
It's really not bad. Our rules book is not bad. We have a lot of components, but the game exists in some primary typical piratey type things. Like you have to maneuver your ship, and then you can volley with your cannons, right? Or you can get in close and crew assault. And so it's pretty simple. And we call it a dice battler. Basically, you're rolling volley dice whenever you shoot your cannons, and you're kind of tallying up the types of damage that you deal, whether you're hitting their hull and hurting their ship, or if you're using chain shot and slowing them down, or if you get in close. Pirates and other naval ships had grape shot, which would target crew and kind of put holes in the ship. So there's a lot of real-world things, but it actually plays very simply. It's a lot to look at when you first see it because there's so many components, but once you play it, it comes pretty easily, I think.
What's the mean average for a game, like in terms of time?
First, this is one of those games where you call your buddies over and you get pizza and you hang out all night. Like a first playthrough for our playtesters was usually between like 1 to 3 hours, something like that. But after that, they cut the time in half pretty much. You're figuring out how to play. There's a lot of visually interesting things to look at and read. But yeah, usually like 1 to 3 hours. It's a kind of a longer form game.
What's the perfect length of time in terms of? Actually, stick with us. We got more with Micah coming up next.
Thanks.
Welcome back to Good Things, streaming live over at SuperTalk.fm, also streaming from that SuperTalk app, and we're always on your local SuperTalk Mississippi radio station. Don't forget about SuperTalk TV. That's on your computer or your mobile device. You'll see I'm not alone in the studio. I'm still with Micah Tyson. He's the co-founder of Tortugas.
There we go. Yep.
I got it.
Absolutely.
Games. They've got their first game out, Red Tides, A Tale of New Caribbea. Well, it's out in terms of the next stages, and we're really trying to get it to market. I mean, they are a board game company based right here in Mississippi, trying to just bring families and friends together to have good old-fashioned analog fun.
That's right.
And where you put down the digital devices and you just go all in. And I think this is really cool. I want to know about the name. So how did you guys come up with Tortugas Games? I'm just kidding.
Right.
If this one goes south, you can have that one.
That's
but
right.
no, Tortugas.
It's kind of funny. In college, my best friends and I would often go to a local Mexican restaurant that was right down the road. And when I say often, almost every day. And we got to be really good friends with a lot of the wait staff there and a lot of the owners. And in college, sometimes you're tired, and we would often come kind of dragging in there, and so the waiters, whenever they saw us, started calling us Tortugas, and they would say, "Hey, Tortugas, welcome back," and so it just kind of stuck. And even when we'd go in there with our parents, they would do the same thing, and they'd be pretty confused about why the waiters were calling us Tortugas. But yeah, Nick and I just decided that's a really cool part of our history and an inside joke that. And it also kind of works well for pirates, So.
I think so. It does. Okay, so the Red Tides, you've got some game testing going on out there. What's that feel like when you give your baby? It's like writing a book or a manuscript and then handing it over and trying to sit back and not help people along with it, but still help them along. So what's that been like in the testing phase?
It's been amazing. It's been such a cool thing to take it to conventions. First and foremost, play it with friends and family. We've got around the table a lot. We've done dozens and dozens of play tests. But we've gone to PAX Unplugged, which is a large tabletop convention in Philadelphia every year. And so we've been in their alpha room a couple of times. We went just this past December and just let lots of new people play it. And that is what really gets us excited, seeing people enjoy this thing that we've created. And it's also extremely necessary, because you don't see the things you don't see, and having that feedback, having that ability to iterate on what you're doing is vital, I think, to making a good game. And we just really love our community, and we take a lot of pointers and a lot of ideas about things and implement them into the game. And we're growing a Discord community right now that we have a lot of members in that we got from those conventions and all the play tests.
You kind of mentioned finding those gaming communities within Mississippi, and I don't know. When you think of gaming, I think your mind goes straight to maybe online gaming, but I guess those individuals also probably play well into board games as well, because it's kind of like you have a team and you're sort of navigating through something. It's not like your stereotypical Chutes and Ladders like I'm playing with my 4-year-old, but who cheats, by the way.
Gotta win.
Yes. But if someone's listening, are you still game testing? Are you still looking for groups that may want to give Red Tides a role?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We've got several really good prototypes that we take around and play test. Actually connected with a couple of online groups on Facebook that were Mississippi-specific groups. But yeah, we'd love for people to play test the game. We're looking at taking the game again in a few months here to Gen Con, which is a huge tabletop convention in Indianapolis. So yeah, the more the merrier. The better we can balance it and get feedback, the better the game's going to be.
If someone wants to see kind of inside the game or see some of the characters and things, is y'all social media sort of platforms the best way to maybe get a look at some of the characters or just some of the ideas or the pirate ships or all the things that you were mentioning?
Absolutely. Yeah. And and I post pretty often if they want to see the art and things. We've got an Instagram. Our Facebook is live, Tortugas Games, and there are links there. Probably the best place to go right now would be our website, tortugasgames.com. And then if you go to tortugasgames.com, at the top, you'll see Red Tides. And if you click on that, the Backerkit link for crowdfunding that we're using, the page is brand new, and it's got some really exciting stuff on there that'll kind of show you the game and show you how it plays.
And this is kind of the real life of trying to get it to market, trying to watch the company grow from just you guys' idea to then getting folks to sort of help buy into it, to sort of see it through. So how does that crowdfunding kind of work? And then how can we help you guys if we feel led to sort of see you to the next level?
It's amazing. People who crowdfund projects are so passionate, and they love games and whatever product it might be. Crowdfunding in general is just a fantastic way for creatives to get a product that might not normally be on the shelves somewhere in the hands of the people that would enjoy it the most. And so the general way it works is you have a product, you have an idea, you build out a pitch basically with some teasers, and hopefully, and we had to, you've done all your research on what the price points are for manufacturing and actually shipping the thing, and all the creative percentages that go around. And so you have a funding goal, and you build community, and when the time is right, you launch on that crowdfunding platform, and people go to your page and they back your product. And so they commit to a certain tier of funding, whether that's, I'm going to buy one version of the game. And there's really no risk, and you don't even get charged unless the project funds. So if you don't hit your monetary goal, you don't get charged anything. And so it's a great way to kind of gauge interest around a product and see how many people want to get it.
Well, and I think that's, too, a reminder of just, we talk all the time here on Good Things, there's supporting local businesses. This is a really unique way, and that's a different way. And it's different than like a GoFundMe,
right,
where it's just you give it's a donation, and then that person gets the lump sum. This is more of like a buy-in to you're holding up your hand saying, when this comes to market, I'll be a buyer, which shows other investors like, hey, there are people out there too that will buy this if it makes it all the way to the shelf, correct?
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, in that way.
You've got the smallest indie creators all the way up to the biggest companies now even using.
So from time frame, Micah, like fast pacing, like what's the quickest that we could see this, on a shelf or at least out for distribution for folks to be able to enjoy?
Well, if we can get everyone in Mississippi to buy a copy.
So everybody listen to Good Things.
Well, it's interesting.
Because, it's a big goal. This is a big vision for you guys, yeah.
Yeah, it is a journey. And I'm not much of a math or a spreadsheet guy. Thankfully, my partner is. But there's all these conversions of, people go and they sign up with their email, and so you're building these potential followers. And then, as would happen, only a certain percentage of those fund. And so we've got some targets that we need to hit in terms of getting people interested and signed up. But if we can do that, then we will launch as soon as we're ready. The tentative launch date right now is late June, but it's flexible, and so we don't want to.
That's still really early.
It is.
June 2024.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think that's pretty cool. And when you do launch, is this something where, again, like on your website, would be able to buy some, or you would be out, you guys peddling it from your trunks in your car?
Right.
Or still happen at these like conventions or stuff, or will it be more like your independent bookstores? To me, I'm thinking are like great places to find these type of games. Or hey, you may, Walmart listens to Good Things, so you may get that way. I don't know, but I hope they do.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out the back end of retail and kind of what it could look like for us, because you're right, there are so many options. We love brick and mortar stores like Vans Comics is a great place right here locally. Mm-hmm. Plenty of places that sell games, but most importantly, kind of foster that community of gamers. They take care of them. They have good times. They have game nights and all these themed things, like even Dogmud Tavern right down the road with certifiable connections and things like that. But so we're open and exploring all of that. We're not sure exactly what that could look like.
But I think that's cool, and I think that we're in it on the beginning, because we'll be following you guys' journey as y'all do make it to shelves everywhere and people are playing Red Tides. What will that be like for you? What will that be like for you, Micah, and your business partner to finally see this come to complete fruition?
It would be amazing. We have families and kids and, our quote unquote full-time jobs. And we've been working for this on this project for probably about 10 years now, off and on. And so it's time to birth it into the world, to let it go. So
who's better at the game, you or Nick?
Oh, gosh. Well, it's a co-op game. So I would say Nick's probably better at the strategy than I am. Like, he sees things in a very good, hence why he handles a lot of the mechanics for games. But.
Have you ever changed the rules so it'd be easier for you to win?
No, we try not to. It's very tempting because we get excited about some cool stuff and then realize, hey, that's really overpowered. You probably
have your kids beat you yet?
My kids? No. They get bored after about 45 minutes. They really do like it. They're into it. But being 11 and all, attention spans.
What's kind of the age group that this is perfect for? Older adults?
Yeah, well, it's a 12-plus game that we recommend. But yeah, I mean, anybody can play. I really do think it's that simple.
Can two people play, or does it need to be you have teams?
Yeah, absolutely. Two. Well, it's really 1 to 4. You could play the game solo if you wanted.
Ah, okay. There you go. Well, this is the beginning of your journey, Micah. Where do we go to support your crowdfunding and find you on social media?
So if you go to tortugasgames.com and click on Red Tides and sign up, that would be the best way to support us. Or you can find us on Facebook at Tortugas Games and do the same.
All right. You're coming back when you got a board game in your hand. How about that?
Absolutely.